In the meantime, Michael McCarthy is still here. Arthur O'D has popped in. This is not a definitive list. We would not claim it to be a definitive list. There are things we are going to forget. Nobody should take offence. This is a more personal musing from Arthur and Mick.
All right, stop making excuses.
No, that's
the sporting year that was 2022. By that I mean, if you have any issues, Arthur and Mick are the people to talk to.
Fair.
Agreed.
Fair.
So you guys have spent, admittedly not all day, but some of today,
Very much not.
to pick out some highlights from 2022, just to begin, I suppose, the period of reflection that is Christmas, and also to preempt the 25 best ofs we'll have over Christmas week, looking back on the year. So at least we're in first. So how do we want to do this? You've picked some out in no particular order.
So we've got kind of 5 each. I've actually got 4, so I'm going to pick one more from your choice, basically, Joe, of the honourable mentions, if you want. So I just want to mention a few things that didn't make the list.
Oh, I see,
You
okay.
can stop if you want, or we can just breeze past them, okay?
All right, okay. So we're not starting with your big takes. You're
go with the ones that didn't
giving
make the
things
list.
which didn't quite
Is that okay?
feature. Yeah, sure.
Whatever way you want
And
to
can
do
we
it, really.
we can pause for a moment here?
Stop
can
with
we?
whatever one you want, right?
And then afterwards we're going to go to your picks.
I don't know.
Format's important to me. Honourable mention section.
Honourable mention, and the winner of this honourable mention gets into number 5 in my list.
Well, it's not
It's a bit of jeopardy.
This is worse than the Champions Cup pool
Okay,
stage.
right. Ireland All Blacks, 3rd test. Not saying it wasn't one of the moments of the year. I'm just...
Wasn't one of your moments, Steve?
I missed it. I told you I was celebrating on the M50 listening to the radio commentary because I was doing TV that day. It was an incredible thing. But it was also over from not early stage, but with a few minutes to go.
It was dominant.
The game feel like it was over.
I mean,
Go on.
it was just so extraordinary, the whole tour.
Oh, amazing! Yeah.
In
It was
advance,
a
I
moment.
do remember talking to Brian, actually, who's on obviously after 8 o'clock, and we were making the point that maybe with the wrong injury to Ireland could lose all 5 here.
Yeah.
The Merry All Blacks will be
Yeah,
really strong.
I remember that actually. Yeah.
This
Yeah.
could get ugly. A winter tour of New Zealand, winter in New Zealand. I mean, these are hard tours. This could be very, very tricky and not easy.
The
And
only
it started badly.
person I remember distinctly on the show at some point or other saying they should feel like they are going there to win was Rory O'Connor.
Right.
I distinctly recall him saying that, and that was so abnormal. It was like, well, that's outrageous, controversial.
I
Just
think
like,
I might have said to him, you're setting them up to fail.
Yeah, exactly. But like again, it proved correct.
The All Blacks absolutely had a low ebb, we have to say.
Yeah.
By their standards, that's still a bloody high standard.
Yeah.
But I guess what was I mean, from the opening 20 minutes of the first match, which again Ireland could have easily won, the rugby they played was incredible. If you remember that series, they started every game like a house on fire.
Yeah.
Like, New Zealand couldn't touch the ball, they were on the rack, and it was beating New Zealand, but it was beating them playing a standard of rugby and a type of rugby that I didn't think we'd see Ireland ever play.
We didn't try to close the game down or anything like it. No, I think from an achievement perspective, I think this could be close to number 1. And I just really did try to make this like a moment that I jumped out of my seat. I've also excluded the World Cup because of recency issues. So, but like, you know, there was I don't know if there was that one moment again that would bump it into a top 4 here. It was an amazing thing. I was so proud of them, I have to say, over that entire tour.
Isn't it a big pity it wasn't on terrestrial television?
It's huge, yeah.
That's part of this
Now,
discussion.
I think that's for the overall, I suppose, conversation, because it is that sort of 8:30 in the morning. It's going to be a low audience anyway. It's not catching the kind of flick-through audience.
I think third test might have generated enough hype to get everybody on board.
Yeah.
So that's possibly an aspect of it.
Yeah, I think so. Look, I mean, I was watching them when I could. It's like, but as in, it wasn't anything to do with terrestrial TV for that. But I do wonder about, in terms of capturing the zeitgeist, whether that matters, especially when it's at a weird time.
Yeah.
Like, because people aren't in the pub watching an Ireland-New Zealand game,
True.
you know.
Okay, so that was a banker honourable mention for sure.
Yeah. One we might have forgotten: Wales 21, Italy 22 in the Six Nations.
Oh yeah.
Padovani last-minute try, Garbisi conversion to secure Italy's first win since 2015 in the Six Nations. It was an amazing moment.
Amazing.
And again, if you're talking that moment, like, that was an incredible try that made you jump out of your seat in a game that you're kind of half watching. I know you're not, because you're sitting in the Virgin studio, but for the rest of us, you're just looking. You only care about you're sort of half watching these games.
I'm just reacting to what you guys are saying. I wouldn't have put that on a list. It wouldn't have occurred to me, but it's one of those lovely things that now that you mention it, what was so extraordinary about that is Ange Capuozzo, this teenage Italian winger who's subsequently moved to Toulouse. And he had come off the bench against Scotland the week before. And this is for Italy, who are just like... Basically, my script for Virgin Television for the last 4 years has just been Italy, of course, on a insert number here, losing streak.
Ian McKinley, tell us why it's not as bad as we think.
Yeah, I know. I did feel sorry that Ian wasn't there for the time they actually did their thing after him saying, honestly, it's getting better. But Ange Caparozzo came off the bench against Scotland. And I vividly remember, certainly Shane Horgan was there and Matt was there. I think Rob Kearney was there as well. And he looked about 14, way too small to be out there. And honestly, we were thinking, we had a brief discussion about whether or not we should do like a player welfare issue. Like this is Italy at an all-time low, and this guy shouldn't be out there.
Yeah.
And then
turns out he's their Brian O'Driscoll.
He scored 2 tries that game, and then it was Capuozzo, if you watched Cardiff, who lit
Dancing
the thing up
feats,
and did it all. So sorry, I'm making your honourable mentions too long, but
no, don't worry about it. We'll go through the next one because people will remember it, I think, more than Wales, Italy, but it was still incredible sport and incredible. Again, maybe not a moment, but an hour certainly of amazing drama was the final day of the Premier League. And we can kind of forget about that sometimes, but they don't happen that often.
Man City 2-0 down.
And Aston Villa went 2-0 up. Coutinho got an amazing goal, and it's like, you're going, hold on a second. Yeah. Everybody just assumed City would take care of business. We didn't think there'd be drama, and there was. And Liverpool were making hard work at their game, but they got there, and then City just 3 goals in 10 minutes, I think, and it was just once they opened the door, the floodgates were open, there was no stopping them. It was actually an incredible hour or so.
My main memory of that day is generally my television screen being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Incredibly
no matter
frustrating.
What, you missed the goal.
Oh, I better flick back over.
I wasn't too far off, actually, I saw the Villa goals, though, but I missed nearly all the City ones.
This was, for all the dramatics of Premier League final days, this was the 9th time Premier League race went down to the last day of the season. On all 9 occasions, the team that started on top has finished on top.
Right, okay.
We've never had that come behind.
Wow.
There you go. Nice stat. Cam Smith versus McIlroy showdown, St Andrews. Again, maybe not a moment, but I thought as elongated sporting drama went, I think that was golf's best this year. And also, like, there was a longing for Rory, I think, because he'd played so well all year and it was the last major and he'd been so good in all the majors, and I just thought he would do it. And it wasn't anything to do with him. Maybe it was early on, but late on he got there, and it was just Smith was just...
Yeah,
he had one of those weeks that you just can't play against.
150 at St Andrews as well, anniversary, so it would have been iconic to win that one. Mm-hmm. Smith had a bad Saturday, and so people said it's often hard to come back after a bad Saturday. And plus Rory had the lead. He was in a group with Victor Hovland. Smith was a bit of an afterthought in the group ahead.
Yeah.
It was weird because it was like the slow bleed of Rory not responding. Because initially he was so far in front, it was like, this is fine, and Hovland's doing nothing, so he's good. And then you kind of cheer on the story and cheer on chaos a bit, and Cam Smith started to make birdie. And you're like, oh, this is kind of interesting. I wouldn't mind if Cam Smith made another birdie or 2. And then he did, and then Rory never responded. Rory would say himself, and I would strongly be of the opinion, it's on him. Like, to shoot a round of level par at St Andrews is awful. Like,
it'd usually be enough, though, wouldn't it, on a Sunday when things tighten up?
Not St Andrews. No? Cam Smith was not St Andrews in those conditions. He shot a 64.
Okay, yeah.
If you this sounds like I'm bagging on Rory, like, who's been the player of the year, hands down. And I'm in the minority saying he's player of the year because he hasn't won a major, but he's been the player of the year for me. Yeah. But if you look at the leaderboard on Sunday, it's basically Rory and like 2 other guys in the top 25 to 30 who are not under par.
Okay.
And so he would say himself, he said it to Paul Kimmage recently, to not have made birdie on, and he named out a couple of holes which are just, nailed on birdies. That's on him. So, but it was extraordinary
I suppose
drama.
The drama I'm kind of almost talking about was, as I said, like early on, Rory put himself in that position, but then in the last couple of holes, he fought back.
His shot into 17 was off the charts good. Yeah. So Cam Smith makes one of the best par saves you will ever see in your life on 17, the road hole, notoriously difficult. A miracle par save. Rory hits a stunning second in, and the birdie putt is, and this is golf, just misses by millimetres.
Did that happen to him a few times in that? Was that one? I know, because I got kind of mixed up. But
he had, and again, the vagaries of the sport, and it's why the sport, I think, drives more people to insanity than most.
Yeah.
He was millimetres away on a few occasions.
Yeah.
But it was, like, as a Sunday,
Yeah.
As I sat there with COVID.
It was brilliant. It was. Did you? Yeah.
As I sat there with COVID and sweated through the whole thing, it was compelling.
3 achievements I want to mention that don't qualify as moments of the year, in some ways because they were expected, and in other ways, but like I don't think they should be glossed over, and no review of the year should be without them. Fit McCarthy and Paula Donovan continuing their domination of the world in the World Rowing Championships. Another world medal for them. They obviously won Team of the Year, Dorothy thing. I was arguing that Paula Donovan should be, you know, a much bigger figure, I would say, in the pantheon of Irish sport, and I will continue that argument. It doesn't make this list because I think we all expected it and we knew they won, and, you know, there's the way we consume rowing as well outside of the Olympics isn't always ideal. There's also the Rhys McClenaghan world title in the pommel horse. Like, that's an unbelievable achievement that's almost hard to get your head around. But again, I kind of, you know, we sort of saw it coming a little bit. I think that's closer to it in terms of a moment. And then the other thing is that the 5 Irish medals at the European Women's Boxing Championship, including 3 golds for Kelly Harrington, Aoife O'Rourke and for Amy Broadhurst, who was fighter of the tournament. Again, unbelievable achievement. But I don't know if there was one moment as such that sticks out. 2 that are definitely in the reckoning, though, that I don't know whether they get in, right? So Ireland had an unbelievable European Athletics Championships as well. We had, 2 medals. You know, I think Mark English winning was unbelievable in itself. Yeah. You know what I mean? What a comeback that was. We had an Irish record from Olatunde. We had Adeleke making a final and being the future. You know, but I think Ciara Mageean silver was one of those. Like, I think it's the most emotive I've been about a athletics race since Sonia in Sydney in 2000.
Yeah. She's a class act.
Yeah.
And she's had real up and down moments, high profile up and down moments. As a point on that Munich European Championships, so the previous, if you take like a top 8 finish as a marker of, we can be very happy with that. Ireland's best ever at the Europeans before, they had 6 top 8 finishes in 98 and 02. They had 11 in Munich this year. So it's been a bit of a leap for Irish athletics. They are your honourable mentions done.
Yeah, and I think the number 5 is the reason I've left it to last is because I think it's getting in. And the only reason I was wary is because I have another one from the same sport. But the Armagh Galway game, and it had everything that the World Cup final had, if you want to take it that way, you know. But Armagh's comeback in that game, 2 injury time, Armagh were 5 points down and scored 2 goals.
Yeah.
And a miracle point from Rian O'Neill to equalise. When does that ever happen? That just doesn't happen. Not in Gaelic football. Not in Championship Gaelic football in Croke Park. They did that. O'Neill gets the miracle point. You go to extra time. There's a mass brawl. Always fun.
Yeah.
Unfair sending off for Sean Kelly and so on. And then we move into injury time, or to extra time, which is dramatic in itself. And then we have our first ever championship knockout, like as in Croke Park penalty shootout, which Galway win. I don't know if you can beat that for drama.
It was top.
Yeah.
Things about the fallout I remember. People discussing why the guards couldn't intervene because they were standing right there, and then the point being put forward that Croke Park pitch is private property. that whole narrative. Yeah. And then
Catherine Martin talking about
think of the children.
Yeah, the fake 5-year-old.
The fake 5-year-old. Yeah. 5-year-old who's very upset about it. 5-year-old is like
went home crying.
Yeah, who's then, you know, doing Stone Cold Steve Austin.
Probably because they were at a match for 4 hours. Yeah.
That was great. We were in here watching that. As with so many of those GA things, yeah, 100%.
I have to say, it's my B. I don't love that so many of those moments we're also working.
Yeah.
You sort of are the barman enjoying New Year's Eve a little bit.
Oh, that's a great analogy. I never heard that before. That's good. Yeah, you do. You end up watching so many of them just on TV around us, or even in the thing. You're just in and out all around the place. You don't get to sit down in the same way.
So they are honourable mentions.
So we'll take that as my number 5. So okay. If you want to go to Arthur's list. But they were mine and Arthur's honourable mentions, by the way.
I'd have Ciara Mageean in mine.
Okay.
That properly got me. That just, I think because the time she'd been on with us not too long ago talking to you.
Yeah.
And it was kind of, was it after the Olympics things were quite hard for her?
Yeah.
And then she just kind of comes back with this stellar year, medal at the Commonwealth, medal, you know, and it's just like, it's fun. She win or come second in a Diamond League meeting as well. Second. And the medal in Europe was like just fantastic. It was class. That was just, I was so happy for her, so genuinely happy. So I'd have that in there. I'd take out I only have 3. So
there you go. That's your number 4, so I suppose.
This is an eclectic mix. There's no criteria as such. So I guess moment as opposed to...
I took it to mean moment, rather
so
than...
For you, and I think for a lot of people, having read Malachy Clerkin's piece with Red Oak Murphy's parents of late.
Yeah, it's only a few weeks ago.
Yeah, which was like is an extraordinary piece. I think the whole country maybe has read it at this stage. So you put that down as something that you obviously is
it's just
an impact on.
It's just an unforgettable moment. I struggle to. It doesn't feel like it's this year. It feels like it's longer ago now at this stage. Oddly enough, but
you're of Sligo.
Yeah, I'm from Sligo, and I talked to him for a piece once. I think I'd messaged him once. I talked to him. I didn't know him, and he was a good few years younger than I was. But I talked to him once not long after he'd come back from Australia.
The county knew he was a special player.
Oh yeah. Oh, like from the get-go, everyone knew that. So that's kind of, you knew of him before you kind of I wouldn't claim to have known him. I didn't know him. I talked to him once, but it's that excitement. I got to see him play for Sligo once against Antrim, I think just before COVID. And he was young still, but he was class. He was so good. And like for a county, it really stands out somewhere like Sligo, where it's like this guy, well, this is the next guy, this is the next Eamon O'Hara, whoever, this generational talent that the country will know. And yeah, just like his incredibly, incredibly sorry and sad passing. And it's like kind of really summed up in that Malachy Clerkin piece, that it's just one of those things you won't forget. And it is. I don't know, is it a thing? I suppose you're you're obviously coming from Dublin, it's a much bigger area, and from Kildare, much bigger area. I don't know, is it a particular thing for a smaller area like Sligo, where you're always kind of just 1 degree removed from everyone, really?
I would think it is a more immediate personal thing. Yeah.
When it's someone like that you're not, it's not like there was all this hope and expectation invested in, but excitement around him, and it was just unbelievable. Yeah. I was in here, it was a Friday, I think we found out, in here. And it was just unbelievable.
You were shook, I remember.
I could not believe it, because it was just it was so surprising. It was so disbelief, real, like so upsetting. But just that thing, like this is this is crazy. This isn't real.
His parents were on with Miriam McCallan at the weekend. I don't know, did you hear that?
I haven't heard that yet. I saw it on Twitter or somewhere, but I haven't heard it yet.
They were remarkable,
Yeah,
and it comes across in Malachy's piece as well. But to use like the worst cliche about death by suicide as well, like he had on the face of it clearly, but face of it nonetheless, he had everything going for him and was just headed for a great life, you would think, and that adds to the sense of horror about it all.
Like he'd been named, I'm pretty sure, in the Sigerson Cup Team of the Year.
Yeah, I think he was due to go down to the celebration that week. I think he had his suit bought, and
so I don't know, it's one of those mysteries. Just devastating, but just something that will, I suppose, be of this year. So that's kind of...
No, I'm glad you mentioned that. No, absolutely. It's worth mentioning something like that. Michael, we will move on to matters less important, but continue the list where you...
Yeah, much less important, but I suppose it's what we're here for. The reason I was somewhat ludicrously, now that we spoke about it, reticent to include Armagh and Galway in the list, was because I did have another 2 GA moments, which I was surprised about actually when I made them. But the one in particular, the All-Ireland final, in the All-Ireland football final, Clifford versus Walsh is going to be how it's kind of remembered. It's a breakthrough for Kerry. It's David Clifford's first All-Ireland. It's Jack O'Connor's return. It was one of the best individual performances you'll ever see in a losing team from Shane Walsh. But I suppose it's definitely not as dramatic as that Galway Armagh game. But why I wanted to make sure I include it was that there was a coming of age. There was the arrival of the prospect we've been waiting for. I remember watching David Clifford in the All-Ireland minor final when he got the 4-4 and thinking, I've never seen a minor like this. I hope it transfers. Because you always want to see that guy at the birth, I suppose, and see them go through. It's just, I don't know, this is what we talked about with Messi during the week. I always have this with sports people, Tiger Woods. And Clifford has always seemed like he was going to be that guy. And this year he confirmed it. And all the way through the year he was confirming it. And then for him to turn up in the final when you're the most marked man in a sport where that is not easy to do. Yeah. Football is a sport where they can shut you down. Yeah. And they didn't. And then for the other side of it, for the guy who's been nothing but potential since he came through as one of these like class acts, and he's been brilliant for 2 years now, Shane Walsh. He's been playing to the potential that we kind of knew he was. But this was the one where it was like, this is the Shane Walsh we waited for, that manager was talking about when he was 14.
Yeah, he picked his moment.
And he'd never had a game like that before. So to see the two of them play football at its highest level, when it's such a maligned sport as well, and they were both beautiful that day. And I just can't imagine we'll ever see performances like that in an All-Ireland final again. So I don't think we should, just because it was the final and it's obvious, I don't think it's something we should sleep on, you know?
Yeah. Two boxing picks. I think your one not very surprising, Mick, in that it's Taylor Serrano. Arthur, you have Clarissa Shields, Savannah Marshall, Fight of the Year contender at the O2 in October. This will have passed lots of people by.
It was class. Look, I didn't, and I wouldn't pretend to know an awful lot about boxing full stop. So it's like, it is that big fight kind of thing. But I just remember a few years ago reading a piece by Gavin Casey at the 42, who did a big deep dive into Clarissa Shields. And she had the most awful life coming up. She was, I think, from Flint, Michigan. But the most awful life in the most unimaginable way that you can foresee. So that's all their thing. So I knew her from that point. So you're kind of then keeping an eye on this fight. Was getting a lot of hype. It was on Sky. So there was a lot of, and Savannah Marshall UK, and I think it was a unified, undisputed fight for the middleweights. So there was a lot riding on it. Sellout, O2, everything else. And I just loved from the very get-go. Shields was coming out, and I don't know what the songs were or what the actual titles were, but the entrance was just immense. It was just one of those things. I love the pageantry of these things. I love even when it gets into, now you're watching a lot of the darts currently. It's so cheesy and it's so cliche, but when those songs and they come on and it's all, I fall for that every time.
I would have thought you'd be above that. But
no, I'm lured right in. I'm lured right in every time. But she came out, and there was she comes out, she's standing there for 2 seconds, and then two dancers come out behind her, and then it's just like a choreographed dance that she's taking part in before she goes down to the ring. I was like, this is just unbelievable.
I missed this.
It was incredible. It was just like it was just, there was such a kind of wonderful arrogance off it. Like, she took the thing seriously. She won kind of comprehensively in the end on I think it was on points.
Right.
But it was just class. It was so enjoyable because I just never seen that before, and it was just great.
Taylor Serrano, we talked about so much. You also have, I'm going to jump in and reveal, Mick, your others. You have Amber Barrett's goal and you have the Munster hurling final down. Time is not going to allow you to talk about everything.
I think Amber Barrett speaks for herself. I think that was the jump out of your seat moment of the year, you know, whereas I just quickly on Taylor Serrano, I mean, I actually had a clip, I think there was enough time to read it, of Michael Foley's brilliant piece that you mentioned earlier in the in the Sunday Times this week, that people should go back and read, but it just sums up how mad it was. But for me, that was Taylor. I spoke to Katie Taylor about Amanda Serrano fight, where I did a video with her, spent half a day with her about 4 or 5 years ago, and that was all she wanted. And I was just so worried that time had caught up with her before Amanda Serrano. Taylor wanted that fight. She knew she could beat her.
Yeah. And
it was getting late, and she's 35. And you know what? She put in the performance of her life when it mattered most, and that's the ultimate champion. You know, and that's talk about a pride in an Irish sports person. That's what she did that night, and on the biggest stage, and she did the entire sport proud. It was a fantastic performance and a fantastic fight as well. But the other one then is the Munster hurling final. I was there. I think Arthur has this on the list, and it's a different moment, because it was just an amazing, amazing match. Clare lived with Limerick in a way that we didn't expect. The rain, first of all, I was there, it was it never stopped raining all day. It was torrential. It was one of those things that the memory of the wetness will live with me forever.
I can't remember this at all.
Oh, you're in here with me.
Well, are you sure?
100%.
So I talked about this.
Yeah, you talked to James O'Connor afterwards.
I can't. It's very surprising to me that I don't remember, because it was such an exceptional game of hurling. Garrod Hegarty got a goal in the first half.
Got a lot going on.
Garrod Hegarty got a goal in the first half. It's one of the best. Ever seen.
Yes.
Well, sorry, funny. One of the fond memories from this year is interviewing Garrod Hegarty, and of that goal being so beaten up by GAA players, humility down the years. Saying to him, "Come here, don't tell me it wasn't a good goal." And him going, "Oh no, it was a class goal."
Yeah.
And me thinking, Jesus, it's the most arrogant thing a GAA player's ever said to me.
The only goal that came close to it this year in the entire hurling championship was Garrod Hegarty's goal in the All-Ireland hurling final. As in, he was just that, he's unbelievable. But his goal in the first half of that game, and that was another, there was many moments that Limerick just sunk Clare in that game, and they kept coming back, and Kelly was to the fore of it, and he was brilliant. Then Declan Hannon gets a score to win it, deep into injury time. An amazing point, a real captain's winning a score that's going to be famous, the Kieran Carey style, And game's over. Clare win a puck out, win a scrappy line ball. It's inside the 21, Joe. It's pissing rain. And Kelly steps up. And I'll never forget the feeling of the terrace, just realising the second he hits it, by him running the other way, that's over, straight between the posts. It was such a clutch moment, and the euphoric feeling in the crowd. Extra time comes in, there's like a usual 25-minute GA wait for the extra time to start. Things have calmed down a little bit, and Limerick win it, and they win it by a couple of points. They get 3 points ahead. It sort of stays that way. It's a slight anticlimax, but it's the best hurling game I've ever been at in person. And
is it?
Okay.
And Limerick won it, and it was the ultimate let it flow game as well. Referee never got another match.
That's never a coincidence.
Yeah, genuinely, he's retired now. John
the hurling down the back.
But all the hurling people loved it.
Yeah, absolutely. We got to go.
Sorry, okay. Arthur has one more, does he? No, just go out Hegarty.
Just go out Hegarty.
Okay, that was Arthur
What a year.
and Mick McCarthy. Back in just 1 second.